Hi everyone, and welcome to Learn with Sawgrass. I am Rhonda, and welcome. Thank you for joining us at this special time today, on this special time on a Wednesday. Whether you're watching this live or you're watching this later on a recording, we're so glad to have you. Next week we do go back to our normal schedule, which is Tuesday afternoons at 3 p.m. Eastern and then Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern. We do have special guests. Two of our brand ambassadors, our Sawgrass ambassadors, will be joining us next week, one on Tuesday and one on Wednesday. So I'm really glad to have them come in and kind of share their experiences and their knowledge. And so please make sure and join us. Today we're going to talk about color management in the Sawgrass Print Utility. So how do you get the correct colors with what you're doing? Now, there are a few things to know about color. You know, color is kind of dependent on your eye. It is subjective. I can tell you what's right on a color meter, but that doesn't necessarily look right to your eye. So we do know that color is something that can change and may need to change. I was recently told that I like my photos too magenta, which apparently I do, but you know, that's my particular taste when I'm adjusting photographs, is I apparently make them too red. So it is what it is. So we will talk about that. The other thing, of course, is your image that you print out is only as good as the image that you have on the computer. So things like dots per inch are going to be very important. It's also important how you source images. If it's just something that you've copied and pasted from the internet, the resolution's not going to be great, so you are going to get an image that's a little bit fuzzier. You also may not get the colors exactly you want. But let's talk about colors in general and some things that we've built into the Sawgrass Print Utility to make sure that you get the best output. So the first place you are going to start every single time is going to be here in your settings. Now, you may have noticed that we actually moved some things around recently just to kind of help with the flow. So more about the page layout and number of copies and all of that is now moved to the top. And then below that are going to be your settings. Now, please hear me and hear me well on this. We have the colors set, the profile set up based off of the material you choose, or so whatever is selected. So if you're pressing onto metal, the best thing to choose for metal is metal. So I see a lot of people online going, I'm doing a ceramic mug. What products did I choose? You should choose ceramic because it's a ceramic mug. Those settings are going to be accurate. If our profiles are not accurate, we do adjust them. So if we're hearing a lot of people saying that the ceramic is off or it's not giving the best results, then that's something we adjust on our end. That's not something that you need to go, oh, I'm going ceramic, so I should choose acrylic. That's not the way to do that. Kind of go with what it is. Please trust us on that we have those set correctly, just to make sure that we're laying down the correct amount of ink for what you're doing and that that profile is adjusted, because things like saturation, things like brightness are adjusted for the white point of the product that you're pressing onto. So we do all of that work for you. You're usually leaving print quality to high quality. That's not gonna, it's not gonna impact color, but it will impact the quality of the result if you were to change that. So that high quality is the best place to do that. And I think a lot of times when we look at quality of images, we're not only taking color into how we say the quality is good or bad, but also just that pixelation. So that's kind of why we talk about that. So we do have Rhodes in the chat. If you need any information on dots per inch or resolution, if that's not something that you're familiar with, please let him know so that I can kind of jump into that a little bit. But I know I've said it a few times, so I don't want to say it again if it's something that everyone knows the answer to. All right, so the other place you're going to go, and this is an important one, is color management. So our two main color modes are these first one, photographic and vivid. I always say what you choose really depends on what's more important, color accuracy or color appearance. So color accuracy meaning I want the colors to be as close to what I'm seeing on my screen as possible. And then color appearance being I really want those colors to be very saturated, very bold. So in this situation, this is a photograph. I would definitely go with photographic mode. If this were more of something I had drawn or something that was more of an image than a photograph or a logo, I'm going to go with vivid. Now, on that subject of logos, if you're doing a logo, getting the colors correct is going to be extremely important. So you're probably going to go with photographic for a logo just because the accuracy is going to be more important than whether that's bright and bold. You really want the colors to be as close to how they appear on the screen as possible. So we're going to go with photographic on that. Now, we also do have grayscale mode. Grayscale is going to be for your black and white images. I couldn't make this grayscale. It's going to take the colors out, drop that down to grays and blacks and whites. I can adjust this further, and we're going to talk about what all these sliders mean in a minute. But you can actually go in and change those, move those around to change how that image looks. Always with any of these sliders, you are going to have to apply to image to see that. That actually would probably be a little closer to how I'd want that to print if it were black and white. Now, we recently did add what we're calling classic mode. For those of you who liked the colors as they looked in Sawgrass Print Manager, we did go with that. Color is... The way we bring color in is different in this program than it was into the Sawgrass Print Manager. We felt that, there were people who were asking for what we're doing in the Sawgrass Print Utility, but there were a lot of people who were comfortable with the way things looked in the Sawgrass Print Manager as well. So we did we did pull those documents. We do have that classic mode. We were only able to do that on the 500 and the 1000. So if you do have an 800 or a 400 printer, one of those older model printers, we do not have that classic mode available for you. So you would go with either the vivid or the photographic, and then you can do the custom sliders that we're going to talk about in a minute. Now, before I jump into custom, Rhodes, do we have any questions?
We have no questions so far.
Awesome. All right. So custom is really cool because it's going to allow you to go in and adjust. So if someone got my photos and felt they were too magenta, they could add more green, which is going to take away from the magenta. They could add more cyan, that's going to take away as well. Probably slide it a little bit more towards this blue. And be able to remove some of that red overtone. It's a lot greener this way. Now the other thing that you can adjust is going to be brightness, hue, saturation, and contrast. So let's talk a little bit about this. So brightness is going to be how much light is on the image. I can make it less light beam onto the image, or I can go the other direction and I can add more light being applied to that image. You also can adjust the hue. Now this is the overall hue. Each color has variations. Some variations are darker, some are lighter. Each one of those variations is called a hue. So if I wanted to go to darker hues, I could do that. I'm actually going to take the brightness off so you can see it better. You are noticing that each one of these is adjustable. We do have that where you can just take it right back to the middle. That's those darker hues. I'm going to go with some brighter, lighter hues. Yeah, I actually like the greens in that. And then I can take it back to normal. With saturation, you're going to look at how much of the color is being applied. We can apply more of the colors, or going the other way, we can apply less of the colors as well. Actually, I think I said that wrong. This is applying more of the color, and then going down would be applying less. And then, of course, contrast. So this is, if we move down this way to the left, we are making the blacks as black as they can be and the whites as white as they can be, moving those as far apart as possible. This is going to be less contrast, so those are closer together. And we can adjust that as well. And I actually really like the way that looks too. So you can play with this. You can play on this on a by project basis, meaning every project that you bring in, you adjust this. Or if you find things that you like, meaning I like to adjust things to be redder, I like things that are brighter, I could do that, and then I could actually save that as a custom setting. And then every time I come in, I can apply that color setting. So instead of coming in and choosing photographic or vivid, I'm just going to go to custom each time and then just choose that palette. And then that's what I apply and use. So really great for you. If you are someone who has a specific eye for color, or you like images to be a certain way, to come in and apply this every time, and then maybe tweak it depending on the image. But it's a great way to get color the way that you want it to be. Now these are adjusting very general things about the color. One other thing to remember is that in your recents, that's going to save any job you've printed, and it does save your settings. So one of the things that gets applied is whatever color mode you did. So if you're doing custom colors on a specific image and you print it, then it's in your recents with those applied. So that's another way to make sure that you're getting consistent colors on everything you do. Every time I print my lily pad tote bag, that's my little invented tongue twister for the day, I can make sure that those colors are the same every single time by opening that from recents. Now we do have one other thing that you can do, and this is going to be over here. I am currently not seeing, but that's going to be spot color. So spot color is very important, or very useful, I guess you would say, in a situation where you have an image where the colors need to be extremely accurate. You also can look at this in situations where you have something but the colors just are not printing out the way they should. All right. So let's say I printed this and I pressed this, and I found that my honeycomb color was just not the correct shade of yellow. Let's say this is something that's being put up in so let's say it's being put up in a childcare center, and it's being put up in about 10 different franchises. You want that color to be consistent, and you want that color to be right. So it needs to match what's on the website, what's on the printed material, what's on everything. So you want to make sure that that yellow is exactly the way it should be. Now, different printers, different printing processes may make colors look different. A yellow off of ours may look different than yellow off of someone else's. So by doing spot color, what you're able to do is make the output match what the input is. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So if I open up my file, I'm going to open this in Adobe Photoshop. And what I'm going to look for is, I'm going to look for the RGB values of this particular yellow. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to use my eyedropper. I'm going to click on this yellow. I'm going to double click here. And I see that my RGB is 249, 203, and 12. 249, can you write those down for me, Rhodes, in case I forget them? 249.
Taking a note, hold on.
Taking a note for me. 249,
Okay.
203, and 12.
203 and 12.
Yeah. All right. So that color, when pressed, may not match what exactly I need it to be. So what I can do, and I'm actually going to check this. So what we have found, and I know this is a silly thing to say, Photoshop is more accurate than Illustrator. I opened that in Illustrator. So I'm going to open that in Photoshop just to make sure those colors are exactly what I want them to be. There we go. We have found that Illustrator may be just one number off. So that's why I want to make sure that I'm picking the correct one. So 1 second for me. $249, $203, $12. That one's perfect. All right. Just like to double check. All right. Okay, so there's my bees. I'm going to go into my settings. I'm going to go into my spot color. And the first thing I'm going to need to do is add this to a chart. So I'm going to add this to Rhonda's table. I am going to do a new swatch. This is going to be my honeycomb. And we know this is 249, 203, and 12. Now, what does my output need to be? Well, right now I'm going to guess. I'm going to make this a bigger difference just so it's easier for us to see. Let's get a little more. There we go. That's a pretty noticeable difference. And I'm going to add that to my table. Now, if I click on my honeycomb, you see that now I can find a similar color. You also see that not only RGB, you could do this to CMYK or hex codes as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to print a similar chart. What that's going to allow me to do is see what outputs. I'm going to print this and I'm going to press this on the same material so I can look at it. Now, medium increments means that it's not a huge difference in these colors and the others. They're going to be kind of a medium range. If I were to go to small increment, you notice the colors are all very, very similar to that yellow. It's going to be right there in that same area. Medium's probably closer to what I put as my output value. And then large is going to be a massive swing. So we're going to go very, very light and very, very dark. I would normally go medium. I would print this You do need to press it so you can see how it looks pressed. And when you do press it, it's got the RGB values. So I'm able to go in, once I've printed this, and put in output values that are going to give me the result I need. So what this looks like on screen, this is what's going to be identical to it once it's pressed. So when I am in here, you're going to see for each design file I have at the top, you're going to have a color swap table. I'm going to do Rhonda's table. You noticed my color changed. It said there are pixels equal to one of the things on the chart and or on the table, and it changed it accordingly to give those results. So when this outputs, it will output and hopefully it'll match the color I need exactly. So this is not something that everyone's going to use, and I'm not even going to use it on everything I do. A lot of the times when I print and press, I'm not extremely color sensitive. It doesn't have to match something exactly. But if you're doing something that has a logo, this is really, really helpful. Or even in this case where I have 2 shades of yellow, just to make sure that they're as different as they need to be to give the best end result. So those are some things you can do to help you with color in the Sawgrass Print Utility. Make sure your settings are correct. Make sure that you're using the proper color mode. Use that custom color panel if you need to give you the exact shades that you would like. And then of course spot colors as well to do an exact match on color. Rose, do we have any questions?
No questions.
Awesome. So thank you so much for joining us today. We're really glad to go over this with you. If you do have any questions, please feel free to continue to put them in the chat. We do see them. That is something we will address and look at for you. And otherwise, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.